What happens when the veil between realms thins? Can the Bedlam Sisters finally break through so Emperor Hiroku can unleash the looming threat of the Horde upon Enosh? And why does Evanora worship him like a god? What power does he truly hold over her? Find out this and more next on Free Your Mind. Hit it. All right, we have finished chapter 5. Now we're on to chapter 6, The Secret War 2. We're on location in the Shadowlands at the barrier's edge. The Bedlam Sisters cackled among themselves. They stood at the edge of the Shadowlands, facing the waiting militia. Here, in this particular part of Battlegrass, was the only place to regain access to the realm of Enosh. It is where an invisible wall of celestial magics stretched all around the perimeter. It was meant to keep anyone out of Enosh who didn't belong. This ensured the Emperor and his horde stayed trapped, or it did until now. After many, many cycles of attempts, very few being victorious at all, it had come down to this moment. Yerba, Merda, and Evanora finally successfully prevailed in overcoming this hindrance. They knew this was the moment to make their move. The collected celestial magic was at its strongest, and the veil between the two realms would be at its weakest. Silence! Merda screamed out over the unruly lot. Evanora stepped up to the platform they had built as an impromptu throne. The awaiting soldiers all groaned with protest, but soon quieted down and allowed the witch to speak. Praise Emperor Hiroku Singe, for he is deserving of our praise. Evanora forced the despots into prayer, demanding signs of adoration for their ruler. It was his sorcery that guided them, his power that pointed to this moment being the moment. The joy he had brought, surely by some unknown power he possessed, was apparent upon her haggard face as she continued displaying her love of Hiroku. Because of the Emperor's greatness, history will bear witness to his auspicious victory. By our actions and determination, and guided by his hand, the kingdom of Enosh will fall. The horde cheered and shouted, growled and sneered in celebration. Yerba stepped up and summoned the pigman Moman forward. The sub-commander left his spot next to the strongman Tongan. The swine leader took his place next to Yerba, turning toward the crowd of his peers. When the portal opens into their realm, Sub-Commander Moman and I will guide a small battalion of you to infiltrate the city of Orion in the Opinad kingdom. We will seek, kill, and destroy en route to the two towers, Astratorn and Vistarnet. When we are done, it will be nothing left but rubble. Moman frowned at Tongan as the strong man raised an inquisitive eyebrow at him. Moman shrugged, unaware of Yerba's plans till now. He bowed to her in salute, fist to chest. It would be his honor to storm a castle. Yerba then pointed to Tongan with her bony finger. Sub-Commander Tongan, you and Celeste will take charge of a battalion set to overrun a small town called Siok in Kamal. You will lay waste to the locals, catching their protector unprepared. They won't know what hit them. Merida felt the fullness of the darkness. She felt most connected to her sisters when the darkness moved through them. Yerba smiled a wicked smile, glaring at Celeste. Though not thrilled about it, the novice witch respectfully bowed to them all, as expected. She was most excited to know she could be spending her time with Tongan and not the smelly Yuta. Here before you stand your leaders. You will follow them faithfully into battle and triumphantly. Hail, Hiroku! Merida crunched her bony fingers to make a fist, then shook it confidently. From the throne, Evanora once again spoke to the masses, proudly poised above the other sisters. The other sisters floated away, turning their attention back to the work of opening the portal. Lastly, General Upega will lead the 1st Battalion into the heart of Enosh. At this moment, they will be divided and at their weakest. She will be no match for you or your militia. It will be the perfect time to debut our glorious leader. The look upon Upega's face was less than ecstatic. He had become the center of attention, but only thought about Abaizu and their master overlord Zuda. Upega looked down at the gauntlet on his arms, knowing that it was Hiroku's filth that hindered him. Upega longed to unleash his true power. Hiroku was right to subdue his hellfire. He would have ended the warlock's life if he hadn't. Zula would have never wanted a non-demon to be on the throne. Aside from the Blood Queen, it should have been either him, Abaizu, or Itan Samaj ruling this hellmouth. It was Hiroku's access to a not-so-dark power that allowed him to win the throne in the first place. Upega just sighed, hopping back on his hellhound. For now, all he could do was wait for the sisters to open the portal. Evanora finally finished her grandiose praise of Hiroku. Any of the family's hierarchy would have ended the sisters if they heard such things. They were demonic in creation and therefore should be praising Upega. Evanora joined her sisters, assisting them in activating the portal. Her work was cut short by the gasps of the horde. She turned to see what the commotion was. All across the field, you saw the horde bowing with fear and respect as Emperor Hiroku approached. Upega's gaze followed the crowds. He lowered his eyes and dropped his head in disgust. He was filled with anger every time he glimpsed upon Hiroku's face. One day he would get his chance at revenge, but for now, Upega hid his rage. The beta demon bowed to the usurper from atop his hell beast. The sounds of the crowd's adulation made it difficult for the demon to contain himself. Praise from the horde scattered across the masses unevenly. It's the master! Look! It's the emperor! Praise him! Oh my gosh! Praise him! Oh! Upon his Makesh, Hiroku-sen slowly rode, the emperor of the Shadowlands, to pass by his loyal subject. As he made his way through the path of his adoring subjects and toward the three crones, he stopped. He pulled his Makesh closer to Upega's hellhound, rubbing his hand across its hide. The beast trembled with pleasure under his touch. Upega was quite comfortable. Upega was quite uncomfortable with Hiroku's hands upon his kalb. He could feel the heat of the pit fueling him, rising in his belly, ready to deliver death. Upega stared angrily and unapprovingly at Hiroku, who just bared his sharp fangs and grinned at his subdued rival. The warlock's eyes flared red, flexing his power as he continued past Upega. Earlier, you and me in my throne room. You just had your final chance, Upega, and you didn't take it. Hiroku spoke quietly to him. You're weak, pathetic. Remove your spells from these enchanted gauntlets, Your Highness, and I'll take that chance right now. Upega grunted back. Hiroku just ignored him and rode off, knowing the truth. Even a beta demon, like Upega, at full power, was dangerous. Indeed, he had learned his lesson with the slimy one, Merrick. My lord. Evanora was the first to greet him as he got closer. We are ready to begin. He didn't respond to her or acknowledge she even existed. He dismounted his ash-black Makesh, making hissing sounds at it and rubbing it. Pale blue smoke escaped its nostrils as it whinnied and neighed in response. Hiroku looked over the crowd, enjoying the praise of his devout Zmagedra, Zauti, and Yuda, his generals and commanders. Bladeswipe and Vasago shook their heads. They couldn't believe how pathetic Evanora was, pawning for Hiroku. The two of them mounted their own Makesh and moved to either side of Hiroku's steed. The three demonic horse-like beings acknowledged the other. Bladeswipe rubbed his own, watching the Emperor step upon the faux throne the witches had built for him. The cheers and screams of praise echoed across the crowd of his soldiers. As they celebrated their emperor, Hiroku felt more and more like this was finally his moment. He had waited for this particular moment in the Enoshian calendar to make his move. Hiroku manifested his scepter, raising it in the air in acceptance of their adulation. Sisters, you may begin opening the portal. He finally decided to address Evanora and their sisters. With a wave of his hand, the violet, hovering stones within his staff moved to her. The cheering grew as the sisters began to hover in a triangle formation. The darkness rose within them, exploding across the militia. A giant black and violet swirling circular void formed before them. Hiroku extended his staff and spoke enchanting words unknown to his demon witches. Van di hues af het ek gekom. Terug bij die hues ek teruggaan hues to. This triggered every bottle of the celestial mix the witches had collected, their contents pouring into the vortex. Blade Swipe grabbed his chest, feeling the pull of it as if they were connected somehow. The grimoire, a bound collection of their dark witchcraft, accompanied them. It was the mixing of both the light and the dark powers that caused the portal to expel unnatural winds. Zauti Sergeant Ojin and Sergeant Jowen fought against it. The pair struggled to move into their own positions as they gestured for Moman to move his horde division to move into theirs. The Yuta sub-commander was a heavy hog, and even he could definitely feel it pulling at him. Hiroku's sudden hand gesture was something Moman had never seen from the Emperor. You honor me, Moman, with this loyalty. Remember why we do this. Emperor Hiroku's amplified voice paused everyone's movements. It was Moman and his Yuta clan that made up a big portion of his army. He needed their loyalty more now than ever. They were the pawns, like the Zuiti, and destined to die in his name. It's the Dark One we fight for. Kill everyone and everything you get your hands on. Hiroku pointed to his horde that stretched across the field of the Hellmouth. Prove your loyalty to me, to the Dark One himself. Kill, seek, destroy. He could hear their battle cry over the turbulent wind. Though in empty excitement, the warlock emperor had generated pride within them. Moman and his battalion pumped their fists into the air before moving them into their chests in salute. Every other battalion followed suit. Blade Swipe and Visagos, Celeste and Tongans, Ojin and Jowens. Even Upega's battalion, but not the demon himself. How in the holiest of fucks are these idiots falling for this? Upega watched the unfolding scenario with disdain. His anger began to rise once more at the thought of such a betrayal. Have they forgotten who their true master is? Hiroku moved away, taking a seat upon his faux throne. He took in the praise of the masses as Moman and company were the first to begin their trek through the portal. Yerba followed behind as the last one, bowing graciously to her emperor right before. Hiroku banged his scepter, causing the swirling purple portal color to change to clover green. He had planned exactly who would go where. Sub-Commander Tongan and the witch Celeste moved into position. The pair performed the same fist-to-chest salute, nodding to Hiroku. He had crafted a task for each of the groups to undertake. Celeste knew what they had to do and why. It would be utter torture and death if they failed. Hiroku raised his scepter into the air, shaking it vigorously in celebration of them. This is it, Upega. The power of the orb will be ours. They will know us as death incarnate. Hiroku spoke, unaided, but smiled as he did. No one could hear him but Upega. Hiroku spoke as if their little confrontation previously hadn't even happened. Play your part. Help me win this thing, and Battlegrass is all yours. Hogwash. The demon grimaced under his breath in protest. Upega believed nothing Hiroku promised. Hiroku turned to Upega, lost in his gracious smile. He stood, extending his open palm. Now, you listen to me, you sniveling little bottom demon. His dark power pulled the demon slave from his demon dog and into his grip. You will go to Enosh, and you will obliterate their white knight brigade. You will make way for my arrival. You are a usurper. This throne, this realm, it belongs to Overlord Zula and Abizu, not their cringy lackey. I will not go into battle for you, Upega snapped. The demon dog whined in the background, feeling its master's pain. Hiroku tightened his grip around the demon's neck. He pulled Upega in even closer still. Oh, yes. Yes, you will. The demon evoked what power he could to get away. Hiroku let go, not expecting such a retaliation. The demon looked upon the warlock with a deeper disgust than before. Do not think for a second that it is you I serve. Upega had had enough, refusing to back down from his rival. Hiroku stepped down one step, laughing low and devilishly at the demon's little outburst. He spoke if Upega said nothing. Then take the keepers hostage. The demon fought against his restraints, his face luminescent. When this is over, you better hope you have the orb to stop me from killing you myself. Hiroku's ferocity rose, shocked by Upega's defiance. You will then wait for me to arrive in all my glory. Got it? Upega was ready to burst the hellfire that brewed deep within him. And when Zula returns, and he will return, I'll be there to present your treacherous head to him myself. Hiroku took a deep breath to calm himself. He knew for sure that the demon had him compromised. Truth was, he needed Upega for more reasons than he'd like to admit. Upega was the only demon he had access to, and without him, his plan was toast. The other two Bedlam sisters gasped, yelling, "Blasphemy! Blasphemy! Blasphemy! Blasphemy!" From hearing this, the sisters began to combine their power for attack. Emperor Hiroku halted their efforts with a stop motion of his hand. He was done with dealing with Upega. He instead mounted his Mikesh before addressing the demon again. Good luck. Yes, you will have more access to your powers once there. But I've bound any chance you have of defeating me. Reminding Upega of the power dampening spell placed upon his gauntlets. We will see. Upega's voice echoed as he passed unwantingly through the portal. Hiroku could feel the risen warmth of his own blood. His face flushed. He just brushed off his confrontation with Upega, straddled his Mikesh, and galloped away towards the end of the lineup. His horde whispered to themselves quietly as he passed by them. Frustrated, he hopped off his steed and into his waiting chariot. Hiroku eyed one of the caged Enoshian snacks the Bedlams had waiting for him. A male and a female. With a flick of the wrist, the male's cage flew open. With his sorcery, he summoned the man into his grip. The frail man fought against him as his fangs broke through his shivering skin. First, he felt the satisfying snap Then the eager flow of blood flooding him with flavor. The whimpering fear as the man begged to be spared made his feeding so much more delicious. Blade swipe! Fasago! Hiroku yelled, settling into his royal seat. He tossed his leftovers aside and wiped his mouth clean. Let's go kill shit. Wow. Okay, folks. Man, that was great. That was great. Okay, now it's time. It's time for the author's corner. Okay, guys? Cue the music. Hey guys, welcome back to the author's corner. That was a long reading, more pages than you were probably ready to sit through, but that's okay because you learned a lot about what's happening. You got introduced to some characters you really didn't know about yet, and you got to see what the Horde are really about, right? Okay, so your first question here in the beginning was, what happens when a veil between realms thins? Well, that is what the whole point is to thin that veil and then, make it so that they, the Horde, Hiroku, and his bedlams can enter into Enosh without restriction, which is what they have had in the past, right? Have they always been able to get into Enosh? Yes, but not like they want to. It's kind of like saying, it's kind of like trying to fit the people of a football field into a four-door sedan. It's pretty much an impossibility. So, one or two of them every now and again can pop in and do whatever, but nothing like they were able to do back in the day. So that's what they're trying to work up towards again. And Hiroku, excuse me, not Hiroku, but the Dragon King, he had put up wards to keep them out. And they're pretty crafty. They found ways around that, but Ariana, the Queen Mother, has, and not just her, but her crew, they have really worked to make sure that these kind of things don't continue to happen. But the prophecy, man, that thing is looming over our heads, so we don't know what that's going to bring. But yeah, so that's what happens when the realm thins. Can the Bedlam Sisters finally break through so that Emperor Hiroku, can unleash his looming threat of the Horde upon Enosh? Well, guess what? I'm pretty sure that if he doesn't get in, the book kind of ends there. So, of course, he's going to find a way in there, So, really, this last question, I have thought about quite a bit. Why does Evanora worship him, Hiroku, like a god? What power does he truly hold over them, the Bedlam Sisters? Well, I would say that that's a mystery in itself, because the Bedlam Sisters are like little demon witches, and Hiroku is not a demon at all. So I think there's just some infatuation with the fact that he's, this powerful figure and he's in control of them. And, just because she's infatuated with him doesn't mean her sisters are, but it's more of a survival of the fittest, kind of like fitting in and doing what you got to do to survive, because before Hiroku, they served Overlord Zula. Yeah. Anyways, That is it for this episode, number 16 of Free Your Mind. Make sure you like and subscribe and tune in as we continue on until we don't. So look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And I hope you enjoyed what you've heard, read, all that. Until next time, toodles.